Good day. It's Wednesday, November the 10th. I'm Martin Gagel with Market Radius Research. We've got Kym Anthony, CEO of Avivagen. Avivagen's OxC-beta is a supplement that's been shown in trials to enhance immunity and reduce the need for antibiotics, providing safer, healthier, and more profitable livestock operations, as well as a human supplement to make us happier and healthier as well. The company is solving a problem for livestock owners by providing a more economical and safer way to keep their livestock healthy. The company has been going at it for a few years and has been ramping up sales in new markets. This appears to be happening with an accelerating cadence and magnitude of orders. And this is a feel-good story where we all benefit from the reduced usage of antibiotics throughout the world. And the company has also launched a human supplement that is for improving our immunity as well. So this is neither a recommendation nor investment advice. We're here to learn about the company. Kym, thank you very much for joining us today, and let's hear your story.
Thank you, Martin. Good afternoon, everyone, depending on your time zone. If we can move forward, please. We'll first start with the forward-looking statements, the obligatory disclaimer on forward-looking statements. Okay, let's get started. Living your best life. This product that was discovered by us, and although it's a naturally occurring product, it's synthetically manufactured for purity and consistency, which you don't get in nature. And it, unlike most other naturally occurring substances, it is fully patented. Almost 33 patents in 6 different patent families. And it does help fill a hole in our diets and livestock diets and pet diets that has occurred without our really understanding it to help you live your best life. So the investment summary, it does enhance overall health. And by overall health, I mean the immune system, reducing inflammation. There are other side benefits. It improves the gut microbiome, the gut shape, etc. It is a terrific add-on to one's health program. We have an attractive business model because once a customer adopts, we've not had a customer stop yet. Once they see it in action and see how actually effective it is, then people tend to increase their orders over time, and we've not had, as I said, one dropout yet. We've had continuing sales in new markets with new customers, slowly, difficult, but it's growing, and some of the orders are quite significant that have been coming in. One of the things that we have done, which is unlike most others in our field and in our space, is we have a growing and quite extensive body of scientific community acceptance of the importance of our product through trials, through lab work, through multiple papers that are in peer-reviewed journals that have been accepted globally. We have companion animal and human sales as well as livestock on Amazon with our joint venture with Mimi's Rock. So our pet food and our human products are sold under the Dr. Tobias label. Next, please. The primary objectives, short-term over the last little while have been, and going forward, have been a dramatic increase of overall sales. We've been seeing that. It's never, when you're at a low level and ramping up, it's never a smooth ride, but there's some quite dramatic increases in our sales profile. We're expanding our geographic reach in all 3 verticals. And we're deepening and, as I said, solidifying the scientific community's awareness and acceptance of our product, which is, again, highly unusual. We have quite scientific papers that have been published that within a matter of a couple of weeks have had 700-800 views and downloads. So that's been quite gratifying in terms of the future acceptability of our product. We've also had as our objective the formation of new partnerships. As a single technology company, not a single product, but a single technology company, of course, it's much more efficient in many cases to work through partnerships with others. We have direct customer relationships in many markets, but in other markets, we need to work through other partnerships. Okay. So what is our product and what is it that's different about it? It is made from beta carotene, but it is not beta carotene. It was discovered through the scientific research at the National Research Council in Canada, and it, as I said, supports defenses and reduces inflammation. And all living things have inflammation and need immune support. It's accessible. We sell it to livestock in a powder form that gets mixed into livestock feed or feed additives. It's sold as capsules for humans and in chews as well as in dog food for pets. It's affordable. It gives a decent margin. And one of our scientific advisors has said this is like, it's not a vitamin, but it is like the discovery of a new vitamin. So the three verticals, and then I'll come back to what the product actually is, but the three verticals are livestock. And the purposes in livestock, you all know about antibiotic resistant bacteria. The main source of that is in the low levels of feed that are fed to livestock for growth. So we call them AGPs, antibiotics for growth performance. Those are being stamped out step by step worldwide, despite the lobbying of the antibiotic manufacturers. So the latest country was China to go off of antibiotics, and it's going very well. There's also sectors of the livestock industry that are not allowed to use antibiotics and still produce for the market, and the most obvious example of that is dairy. So we've had tremendous success in the dairy market in reducing bacteria in milk and reducing the incidence of different diseases like mastitis in dairy cows simply by enhancing their immune system. Yes, sir.
Sorry, just to emphasize something. So the use of antibiotics in livestock is not just so they don't get sick and so forth. When they take or they're given antibiotics, they actually get sort of bigger and they grow faster, and it has a real sort of, you get bigger pigs at the end of the day, or faster growing pigs, and that's an economic argument for the livestock operators. Is that right?
Yes, that's exactly right. But it's actually very interesting because the antibiotics that are given as growth promoters are given at relatively low levels, and that creates the perfect environment to breed these antibiotic resistant bacteria.
Yeah.
Now, this is not when an animal gets sick, and nobody's saying don't give them a shot. You give them a shot and so they get better. But this is a different use of antibiotics. This is, as you say, for growth promotion. And in the trials that we've done all over the world, in different markets and different environments, if you substitute antibiotics with our products and other products that are used like antibiotics, so zinc oxide and other things that are helped to keep the bacteria levels low, you don't lose any production. So what happens with our fed animals is you don't lose production. In fact, in many trials, we outperform AGPs, and yet the animals are healthy. There's more surface area in their gut to absorb nutrients. There's more room for good bacteria. You have a better animal, healthier animal that's growing at the same rate with good feed conversion without the ominous cloud of antibiotic resistance overhanging the industry.
So your the OxC-beta makes them healthier, and the antibiotic, the low level antibiotics does reduce some sicknesses that they get, as well as making them fatter and grow faster. And yours helps on both sides of that?
Exactly. And I can get into how the product works. If you take beta carotene crystals and fully oxidize them, so if you start with 100 kilograms of beta carotene crystals, not coated beta carotene, but the crystals, put it through an oxidization reactor, you will get something like 120 kilograms of our product. So in other words, the beta carotene gloms on to the oxygen molecules and creates actually a new substance. and that substance is made up of two types of molecules: heavy molecular weight molecules and light molecular weight molecules. The light molecular weight molecules are pretty well understood. They're called nericipenoids, and they're flavor enhancers, the smell of a rose, smell of raspberries, you'll recognize that. And there's some argument, and we're still doing research, that some of the nericipenoids contribute to the anti-inflammatory action of our product. The heavy molecular weight products, polymers, and there's hundreds of them, sort of like snowflakes. They're all the same, made up of the same thing, but they're slightly different. They have a very profound impact on the immune system. They're not an immune stimulant, which has a metabolic cost. They're an immune primer. And by that, I mean, we all have receptors, TLR2, 4, 6, different receptors on your cells that identify a pathogen, bacteria, gram-positive, gram-negative bacteria, or other pathogens such as viruses, and they increase the number of those receptors, and they increase the height, the definition of them. So they're like sentries on a wall that identify pathogens as they come into the body. And what it does is causes a much quicker immune response and much more specific. It also activates your general response, which is CD14. So what you have is the animal or human or livestock or pet, their system gets onto a pathogen before it becomes systemic. It also works in things that are not in the gut. So in dairy cattle, where one of the biggest problems in dairy cattle is mastitis, an infection of the udder. We see a profound impact with our studies in subclinical mastitis, where the animals don't actually get it because their immune system gets activated and attacks it. The other thing that works, which is you've all heard in this age of COVID, the cytokine storm. When you have an infection, particularly in the lungs, like in pigs, we saw this with a PRRS virus, I would call a challenge situation that we tested in. The animal's immune system acts quickly, but one of the things that damages the animal is a neutrophil response. So the immune system causes an inflammatory storm, cytokine storm. Our product reduces that. So there's less scarring, less issues from the inflammatory response. And it also works on chronic inflammation, like every animal has chronic inflammation, whether it be in the lungs with asthma or arthritis or those types of things. So those are the two main tracks that our product has demonstrated clinically and in the laboratory to address. So that's when we talk through these different markets, think of those two actions as the primary one, along with gut shape and health. For those that are biologically inclined, the cryptobillus ratio is improved, and other things that give more surface area for the gut to deal with nutrients. And of course, the human health market we launched this year. We're just getting our feet under it. It's a crowded space. We launched as a nutraceutical, so it's not a drug. This product of ours does not, although I keep mentioning, and I'll mention that it works on a necrotic enteritis and E. coli and all these other bacteria and pathogens. The fact is it's not a drug. It has no action on any pathogen. It has an action on the host body to be able to fight those pathogens. And so in the human health market, we've just entered that. We've got a long way to go. We'd like to do some trials. We'll need to raise some more money to do human trials. They're expensive, but to be able to make the claims that we know we'll ultimately be able to make. And we're in the companion animal market, and I'll come back to that. We've created a community of customers, of owners, if you will, of our product and their pets that are very enthusiastic about the impact, particularly on their dogs.
Kym, with for the livestock market, where it helps them grow bigger and the antibiotics do, it just, like, crudely speaking, is it because the body doesn't have to expend energy on fighting off pathogens, or viruses or whatever, or it's able to do that more efficiently, so then more of its energy can go to growing? Is that basically kind of how the growth works?
It's a combination of those things. The antibiotics, as growth promoters, work. Otherwise, they wouldn't be used. Ours, you can switch to our product and not lose any production. In some markets, we actually gain production where there's high bacteria levels, and such as in Philippines and China, it works extraordinarily well. But also in New Zealand, in the U.S. and elsewhere, the things that it does is the immune system, which stops these pathogens from developing into sickness to a great extent. Never 100% because it's not a drug, but to a great extent. And it improves the surface area and the gut microbiome. When you're taking antibiotics in the livestock, you're crowding out space for good bacteria and the normal nutrient absorption function of the animals. And you don't have that negative impact of the AGPs, obviously, with our product. So there we are. True. So just to come back to the livestock market, we've done, I don't know, 45. We're past the trial stage. We're into the commercial trials, but we've done trials we've also done a little bit in aqua, not enough, but the three main species, cattle, swine, and poultry. We did a trial a couple of years ago in China, proof of concept trial, and the animals were very sick, I will tell you. The results were extraordinary enough for us to do a very large trial in New Zealand, which has been published, which formed the basis for commercial trials and subsequent sales in various places, particularly in Mexico. In swine, we started with piglets, freshly weaned piglets and their big problem is E. coli. It works. But one of the things over time that we've done is that, and there's been trials in Thailand and in Mexico and the Philippines and elsewhere, that the sows, which don't take AGPs, the sows are left as factories to produce the piglets, perform much better if they're taking our product. They lose less weight. They return to estrus earlier. They produce a much more effective colostrum and milk for their piglets. More effective, I mean higher passive immune in it. So if you think of the piglets getting their immune system, like every mammal, from the mothers, if the mothers are producing more IgG, AGG, etc. in the colostrum and milk, the piglets have a better immune function and immune response. They get less sick. We also have found that if the sows are on it, particularly the last 30 or 40 days before farrowing, that there are less runts. So it's an extraordinary thing in the swine industry: sow mortality and piglet mortality. And if you think of a sow dying, costs a producer close to $1,000 to replace. It's really quite extraordinary. And the piglet mortality between birth and weaning in some markets are 15 to 17 or 18%. If you can reduce either or both of those, which ours clearly does, we haven't done a clinical trial on it, but from observation in the field, we've been in use now for several years in a couple of large markets. It's unequivocal the fact that the sows are healthier, therefore they lose less of them, and the litter sizes are not bigger, but there's less mortality in them. And the same can go with poultry. The broiler market is a very tough market, very thin margins, and our product helps the animals get through their immunization period, which is interesting, with less reduction in growth. And one of the drags in the whole poultry industry is the Clostridium perfringens bacteria, which is necrotic enteritis. There's papers been published on the significant impact of our product in reducing necrotic enteritis. As I said, it's not a drug, so it's not reducing necrotic enteritis. It's enabling the bird to fight it, and the bird can fight it significantly better. They have improved performance. We've done a trial in Thailand where, again, this is for those that might know this or have exposure to it, reduces the need for the coccidiostats in the last phases of their production. So again, the animals are more robust. They can handle more things on their own without constantly being bombarded with drugs. That makes for healthier feed for us, healthier animals, and we're all happier. And it does not, because we replace other products, it does not cost more to introduce our product.
On the chicken side, is there any evidence, or have you looked at, does it help the egg producers?
Very interesting question. Yes, it's we've got a layer operator in Taiwan using the product, and as you may know, huevos, eggs in Mexico is one of the top 3 or 4 producers of eggs worldwide, and we've got trials ongoing right now. It actually improves the color of the yolk because of the beta carotene influence, and the healthier bird.
By like a brighter yolk.
Yeah.
Yellow. Okay.
Yeah, and the animals are healthier, so they produce, they have a longer peak in their production cycle. So we haven't got enough to publish on it yet, but the evidence is accumulating in a very compelling way.
All right, cool.
Okay, so we are in process in Canada. We have approval, self-affirmed grass in the US, the largest market in the world, and we've just, I'll come to this later, got a different partner in the US, and we are proceeding with a no objection letter from the FDA. We're approved in Brazil, Australia, New Zealand, Malaysia, Thailand, Philippines, and we're very close. We're at the last stages in, it's never done till it's done, so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but we've completed everything in China, and it's just in the hands of the regulators to approve, and the same in Vietnam. And for those that don't know, Vietnam is growing like a weed, and they are supplying China with swine, pork products, as well as, well, less so on the poultry side, but they are a major pork and aqua producer. We're also, a very important market for us has become Mexico. And so I think over the next few months, you'll see certain other markets like China and like Vietnam to be approved. Those would be the next ones on the list, and then we'll carry on from there.
Kym, you mentioned aqua markets, or I don't know if I heard that right. I don't know that term. What is?
That's a fish.
Fish. Oh, okay. So, okay, fish. That okay.
Yeah, Vietnam supplies, and look at, there's basically two types of fish production, aqua farming.
Yeah.
Cold water and warm water. The warm water tends to be something I'm personally not as interested in, although it's a very big market. I'm talking about tilapia, catfish, critters like that. The cold water, which is really dominated by Chile, Norway, and Canada, are the salmonoids and other animals like that. We have not emphasized that. We know it works. We did a trial on rainbow trout years ago, but in terms of allocating our testing, trial, and marketing dollars, we've put that in a back burner a bit. But there are several of our larger customers that also have aqua farming feed distribution businesses, and they're very interested in it. So,
all right. Sorry, and maybe you're getting to this, but could you just, like, it's not a drug, it's a supplement. It helps improve the animal's sort of immune system and so forth. And he says it's in progress or approved in various markets. What does the approval process look like for different countries? And do you need to have that, or is it just, because in the US you said there's a self-affirmed grass, generally recognized as safe designation. Could you just walk us through the regulatory stuff? And obviously around the world it's different.
Yeah, if we can go back a slide. Yeah, so in many markets, it's more of self-affirmed. I mean, New Zealand was very efficient, very tough, but very efficient. US, we had a grass panel. Some of the leading scientists in the area were on it. Other markets like Brazil, you just went through a straight regulatory approval process, took about a year. China, I don't want to talk about it online. We took advice from Kofco Biotech, which is a multi-billion-dollar company owned by the Chinese government. Took advice from them as to how to restructure our product, and that restructured product, which will be sold under a different name, will be sold in China and Vietnam. We may use that same approach in certain other markets, but there's a wide variety of approval processes. Some of them are fairly straightforward. Others are long and convoluted. So it's different. I mean, you would expect, for example, Europe to be a perfect place for ours because they banned antibiotics in feed many years ago. The trouble is the approval process is long, expensive, multi-year, multi-million dollars. So we think we found another way around the regulatory issues, but so far we've gone to those countries that have like a Venn diagram, the crossover between a large enough market to be relevant and a simple enough and efficient enough regulatory process to get done. But it varies greatly between countries.
All right.
Next.
Oh, actually, sorry, going back to that, you said it need to be reformulated or something in China. Like, is that
restructured? And I said I didn't want to discuss it in an open forum, how we're doing it, but what we've done is actually quite clever on the advice of Kofco as to how to restructure the product. As I said, it'll be sold under a different name. It's the same active, but it's like formatted slightly differently.
Okay, all right.
And I mentioned this scientific journals. We have published, a half a dozen different papers in some of the world's leading scientific journals, veterinary journals. On the upper right, the Veterinary Journal of New Zealand did the dairy study. Canadian Journal of Chemistry, our chemistry paper. British Journal of Nutrition did one of our Chinese studies. It's been quite broad, and one of the things that's striking is the number of downloads which we can monitor, and downloads and reads access has been really quite high. So which is a very encouraging thing as more and more people are doing research on the product and feel the need to bring themselves up to speed. It's been very, very gratifying. This is like laying the foundation. So the livestock market, we're capitalizing on current partnerships like Meyenberg in Mexico and several others, but we really focused on replacing some of our distribution partners who were struggling with a large player. And if you flip over to the next page, the AB Vista supply agreement. AB Vista, AB Foods, the AB Group out of the UK, they're a massive company covering all aspects of food production, from feed right through to retail and wholesale distribution. They're a massive country. We narrowed them down to take the US, Brazil, and Thailand. Thailand is a shockingly big market for those that don't know. They supply pork products to China and poultry products to Europe. So they have EU inspectors everywhere, making sure they don't feed antibiotics, etc., in their poultry. Brazil is the third largest country market in the world, and the US is neck and neck with China as the largest feed markets in the world. So to have AB Vista and their hundreds of technical salespeople and customer relationship and small distribution relationships on board, it is a true joint venture. So we get our cost plus in our sale to them, and then we split the margin after that. So I'm very excited about that. It'll take a little bit of time to grow, but it's in very safe hands. and our people are making a whole series of technical presentations to their sales staff in Brazil and the US in particular. We had a record sale with our first commercial customer who bought 50 kilograms in the first order a few years ago, and had a record order of 4.4 tons in the spring in May. We've just delivered, or in the process of delivering, 6.3 ton order, which is really a big lift in their usage over time. And I should say we got the order in September. We delivered sent it out on 2 ships. One was going to Manila, the other to the port at Cebu in the Philippines. And the one going to Cebu has been caught by the supply chain stuff, so it's not been delivered yet, but it will be this week. We added a very successful and well-known person, formerly of ADM, running ADM's business first in Thailand and then in Vietnam. Wanted to move back to Thailand where his family was, couldn't work it out with ADM, so he's joined us, and he's a tremendous addition. He's not only got us a distributor in Vietnam for when we get a regulatory approval there, but he's contacted distributors in Indonesia, South Korea, and actually has us talking to a European distributor for non-EU Eastern Europe, Ukraine, Russia, etc. So that's great. We expanded the Meinberg Group's mandate to include Argentina, Costa Rica, Uruguay, Colombia, and Peru. And we're very excited about their ability to translate that into meaningful sales over the next 12 months. And as I said, Kofco Biotech, owned by the government of China, was hired by us just for regulatory assistance just over a year ago. And we're just closing in on the end game with that process. And they may or may not be involved in the distribution of our products. We're talking to some very large players in China right now, as well as to a non-Chinese but large player in China at the moment. Okay.
All right. I'm curious what you said. EU inspectors are in Thailand, making sure that the poultry shipped to the EU doesn't have antibiotics in it. Are Thailand producers allowed to use your OxC-beta for chickens or products that get sent to Europe, or is that?
Yes, they are. And don't ask me the cold hard logic on that. Yeah. But yes, they are. And so also, you know, as antibiotic in feed is not allowed now in China, you know, you could raise the same question about their pork. It's no problem.
Okay. So
as long as we're not as long as they're not feeding antibiotics, it's all good. You know, it's a bit of a strange thing. To tell you the truth, our product, which I mentioned, is made up of hundreds of different polymers, all slightly different lengths, different molecular weights, plus the short ones. To actually and our product goes in at very low levels into feed. If you wanted to actually identify it and find it, it's actually a bit tricky. We had to develop proprietary means to actually identify and measure the consistency of our product in feed. And you'd sort of say, you know, it's so hard to detect, and it does occur in some instances naturally. Obviously, it doesn't get naturally to animals in a barn, but it's, you know, you sort of go, it's ubiquitous, it's hard to identify, it's natural. Our product is made synthetically, sort of like vitamin C. You can have a dozen oranges, or you can take, you know, a couple of 500 milligram tablets. It's the same molecule, but you sort of wonder what the purpose is, and I think that's sort of behind your question of the whole regulatory framework. It's just the way it is. When you talk to the food supply, it's just the way it is, and you just deal with it as it is. You know, there are competitive products. Some of them are complementary, like beta-glucan products. It's not listed there. The beta-glucan products actually stimulate the immune system as opposed to priming it like ours does. And we're talking to one of the world's larger beta-glucan producers about combining the product behind, and white labeling it to them so that they can produce a supercharged beta-glucan product. But some of them clearly, like zinc oxide, actually does work on piglets it gloms on to the E. coli bacteria, but it also is so hard on the piglet and it displaces other nutrients. And some guys just don't want to let go of the zinc oxide, but what we have been able to convince them to do is to greatly reduce the use of zinc oxide. And zinc oxide has environmental issues. I mean, it just by way of background, if you're giving zinc as a nutritional supplement, you're looking at sort of 30 milligrams per ton of feed. In the zinc oxide, it's 3,000 milligrams per ton of feed. So it's a different purpose. It's not a nutritional purpose. And it really is hard on the animals, but not as hard as being overwhelmed by E. coli. And I will mention one study we did at the University of the Philippines showed that the presence of E. coli in the full digestive tract of piglets was reduced 50% if they were on our product. I mean, that's a tremendous amount. There's some others, essential oils, which some of them go back to the Middle Ages, old technology, mixed efficacy. We're confident every time we get into a head-to-head race with different alternatives, we tend to come out first, depending on what's being measured. Okay, Drew? Okay, so no, we've already done this. Yeah, keep going. There we go. Yeah, so the human wellness, I'm just going to skip over to that for a moment. This vertical, which we just started this year, it's in the US alone, the nutraceutical market is 20 billion online. We have a partnership with Mimi's Rock, the Dr. Tobias Beta Blend. Is how it's sold. That's the name. And I, appreciate anybody going online to AmazonUS.com and buying it. You can buy it in Canada or obviously in the States, and it really does work. And I can tell you, as somebody that's been taking it for a couple of years, it works. As we used to say, it works in theory and in practice. So it's there, and we're working with potential partners in Asia and in Mexico in terms of getting it approved in those markets to sell to humans there. And it's a great opportunity. We're going to have to spend some money at some point, I think, here to be able. The trouble with the nutraceutical market is you really can't make any claims, and if you're not making claims, it's a pretty crowded space. So the easiest way to make claims is to do trials. Trials for humans are expensive. So we're looking into that. Maybe we'll partner with somebody. Maybe we'll raise the money for it. But it's a great product. And there will be a growing community of owners of this product, owners of our brand and our technology as time goes on. I'm very excited about it because the darn stuff actually works. And it works in the lab, and it works in the field, and it works on me. So on all of those fronts, I feel pretty good about it.
Kym, just to clarify, it's available to buy in Canada, but through Amazon.com, not through Amazon.ca.
That's correct.
Okay.
That's correct. So it's allowed to come into Canada as long as you're not reselling it. It's not approved in Canada. And basically the whole regulatory approval system is clogged down since COVID. So it's, our regulatory consultants have said, just hold off. Don't waste your time, spin your wheels in Canada just for the time being. And there's a couple of markets just like that. Not many, but Canada's one of them. So.
All right. I would say on the human trials, on the marketing side, getting some influencers and there's so many health guys on doing podcasts and so forth, really pushing on that marketing side. But I guess that's where you're talking about. That takes a fair amount of money to get going.
Yeah, and it does. And we're happy for any suggestions you might have. I mean, but maybe you, Martin, you're still looking pretty strong.
All right. Yeah.
There you go. There you go. But anyway, that's clearly the way we're going to go. You know, sales are percolating along. It's a crowded market, but as soon as people get on it, it takes about 2 weeks for the product to work, whether it's on a human or pet or livestock. But once people are on it, after a while they get comfortable and they go off of it, and they notice the difference because they're used to feeling good, you know.
And in which way, when I use it after 2 or 3 weeks, do I like feel better or like stronger, or is I just notice, hey, I haven't got cold in 9 months? Or
yeah, that's the type of thing. Well, it depends on what you have. I mean, one investor of ours that's in Calgary had carpal tunnel syndrome.
Yep.
And after 3 weeks, pain was reduced dramatically. When we see it in pets, if you get particularly older dogs, not just like me, but older dogs, you know, that are stiff and have trouble can go upstairs pain-free, can you know, get off the couch by themselves, and so it's sort of a quality of life thing. Whether, you know, I have a lot of arthritis, and I've noticed, you know, that's a thing for me. I noticed that dramatically, and as I said, I just actually haven't. I had COVID, as I told you before we came on, back in December 2019, and I was shocked that I got through, you know, once I found out what it had been. I was shocked that I got through it the way I did, given my past history with double pneumonia a couple of times. And so, you know, your system can attack these pathogens much more efficiently.
Right.
But it's for when you see your pets, it's most notable because they can't talk to you. It's most notable with your pets for their mobility and the decrease in pain levels and stiffness that they might feel. I mean, it's especially as you get older animals, it's very dramatic, the change. And, you know, and again, I don't want to overpromise, but the original research and analysis of this product was for its oncology benefits. And, you know, there's a lot of different pets as well as humans that have trouble with cancer, golden retrievers, as we all know. And, you know, there's an argument to be made that there's some benefit on that. We don't have the clinical data to show it, but a lot of the early lab research was very clear that it was helpful in isolating and reducing tumors. So, you know, I guess the way to look at it is when your body, whether your body is a livestock body, a human body, or a pet body, is healthier and more responsive to its environment and anything bad coming in, then your whole ability to deal with those things is improved. And so that's what happens. We tend to measure it against certain things like Clostridium perfringens in poultry, or E. coli in piglets, or mastitis in dairy cow. But it's not a drug that's meant for those things. It's just our way of demonstrating that the animal's body can deal with it. And I think that, you know, when the story is finally completed on this, well, people will say, how did we do without it?
Cool.
So the companion animal, you know, we sell it on Amazon. Both, actually, this one is both on .ca and .com. So in Canada and the US, again, through the joint venture with Mimi's Rock. So it's sold as Dr. Tobias Animal Chews. And we really have a very dedicated and loyal following in the companion animal market. And it's growing, you know, it's growing at over 100% a year, which is not much on a small base, but it's actually growing by word of mouth and things as well. And we'll keep that going. We sell under our own brand, VIVImmune, in Taiwan, and we are just about to start selling in Mexico. We've got a distributor whose market is the 2,400 vet hospitals, and they did a trial with one of the vet hospitals and their customers, and it was extremely successful and published in a pet magazine that was on both sides of the U.S. and Mexico border, and they're very anxious to get going with that, and we're very close to having that approval and therefore a contract with them. Well, also, interestingly enough, we put a picture of Pro's Choice which is a very high-end dog food manufactured by Fuso in Taiwan. And they started last year with this, putting it in their dog food. And the feedback to them through the, they sell through grocery store chains and other places, as you would expect. But the feedback has been extremely positive. They're not a big customer, in terms of absolute dollars, but it's very high profile. And they are also a large livestock manufacturer or a feed manufacturer. And so we're hoping that they'll go from this dog food, and there's several, for older dogs, younger dogs, etc. And we're also looking at helping them distribute that dog food into some other markets. So it's quite interesting from that standpoint.
For that pet food, the Pro's Choice, is there like an OxC-beta logo inside, kind of an intel?
No, it's right on the
kind of
outside. If you look carefully on the right side,
that round thing.
It actually says OxC-beta on it.
All right. Okay.
Yeah, they asked for permission to do that.
Good
And
stuff.
it sort of says in Chinese, it says powered by OxC-beta.
All right.
Yeah, so that makes it very sticky for us. So there we are. I mean, it's been the stock has been under pressure. No hiding that. We've got some old shareholders that got in too early that are tired, and we'll as we bring in new shareholders, we'll take them out and give the stock permission to go up commensurate with the prospects of the company.
All right.
So just to wrap up, we've got record sales contracts that we've just done, and we've got new ones coming up. We've got the whole bunch of new trials that are underway. Supollo in Mexico and different people in different places in different markets that are doing a last commercial trial with their operations before they become a customer. And new partnerships, as I've said, the Avivista one is the one that's public. There's others being negotiated and discussed in private, and we'll see how they go. And we're continuing to do new research on new applications of the product.
All right. Going back to your balance sheet and your revenues, what kind of revenues are you kind of running at right now? And can you just give sort of a highlight of the income statement?
Yeah, we're still at a negative contribution, although we're closing in. I was disappointed that this big sale in Asia didn't get in before our year end, October 31st. But we've generally gone from a couple of 100,000 to close to $1 million to this year it'll be well over $1 million, close to 2 or 3 million, and next year it should be be careful on the forward-looking statements, but it should be in excess of 10 million, which puts us in a profitable standpoint, and then it'll explode. And a lot of that is very hard to predict. It depends on the success of Avivista and other partnerships. On the balance sheet, we've got some convertible debt that's coming due in the spring. That's being negotiated to be extended. So it's all about increasing sales and revenues at this point.
With your announcements of like tons of product, can you give us some sort of ballpark? Like, what do you roughly sell a ton, or what's the list price of it?
A ton in the livestock field, a ton is $100,000.
Okay.
Okay, if you think of that, so we're getting there.
Yeah, and a ton of product, and I'm actually got a question here from the audience. Like, how many cows or pigs or does that feed for a year or so forth? Like 1 million pigs, how much revenue would that generate for you guys in a year?
Well, it's a very interesting thing. A sow eats about a ton of feed a year.
Okay.
A piglet doesn't eat very much at all.
Yeah.
Our inclusion rate for sows is between 40 and 80 parts per million in the feed. For piglets, it's 4 parts per million. And for chickens, it's only 20 parts per million. So it takes an awful lot of chickens. So we're feeding a lot of animals. What I would say to you is that in the livestock sphere alone, we could easily have globally, if we're successful with Vista and other partnerships penetrating the US and China markets in particular, but also Brazil, we could easily have revenues in the many hundreds of millions.
Okay.
I just leave it as loose as that, because we may have to reduce price at some point, or and our volumes increasing mean our costs are decreasing, so we can afford to lower price and increase the volume that way. It's hard, but the goalpost down the field is very clear that it's a lot of money and a lot of margin.
In which market do you have the biggest market share? Like you're feeding, I don't know what, 5 or 10% of the livestock or whatever? Philippines for sure. Yeah. And I think we will be there in Mexico by this time next year. And roughly in the Philippines, what kind of market share or what percentage of the livestock are currently consuming OxC-beta? Well, let's just restrict it to the swine market. I would say somewhere around 15%. Okay. All right. Which has gone up from 10%. I mean, the increase by our main customer there is a reflection of their market share increase and the expanding uses of our product. Do you have any exclusivities where in one of your markets, only one distributor has an exclusivity for a certain period of time to incentivize them, but at the same time, it sort of limits the market that you could target because there are other distributors? Yeah, in the Philippines, we've got 2. They used to be exclusive, but we now have 2. Vista has an exclusive in each of their 3 markets. Okay. They've got minimums they've got to meet. That's the quid pro quo in order to have it. And in the situation I said where we might white label into somebody else's product, that would not be an exclusive. That would just be straight purchases. We have an exclusive with Meyenberg International, but they themselves are only taking a very small commission, and they're selling to other producers and distributors. So we've got multiple distributors in that market, and nobody has an exclusive other than our consultant, if you want to call them that. In Thailand, we had a consultant who had an exclusive, and she was able to keep several of her existing clients when Vista took exclusivity for the remainder of Thailand. Now, there is a very, very large company in Thailand, which is a bigger feed distributor than Cargill. I mean, that may come as a shock to somebody, but their operations are all around Asia. And we're working with a strategy to be able to use them without giving them an exclusive. So it varies by country, but Vista will be the exclusive distributor in the US, Brazil, and Thailand, other than our few existing customers. All right, we should get close to wrapping it up here. Just 1 or 2 more quick questions here. Just to clarify, you have a contract manufacturer in Taiwan who produces it for you, so you don't run a manufacturing facility. And are there any, do they have you use weird exotic inputs where supply chain disruptions could muck stuff up? And B, what is kind of ballpark gross margin that we should expect out of you? The manufacturer doesn't use any exotic products. They produce food grade carotenoids like beta carotene and others, and they sell mostly to the food industry. So it's a food grade, and they sell mostly in Europe and the US, as well as some in Asia. So there's nothing, they are approved around the world for human consumption products. So we feel very comfortable with them. They're very good. They've got a very good operation as well in Switzerland. So, we're always looking now for redundancy, particularly, in Taiwan. But they've been very loyal and very good. They've worked with us for quite a long time, and now they're reaping the benefits of it. So we've not had a problem. The
The non-OxC-beta active products in it are very standard things like cornstarch and silica dioxide for flow agents, agency, etc. So I don't see a problem from that standpoint, but it is important that we and we're looking at, if they need to open an additional capacity, say in Brazil or something, that we would do that jointly with them, but they would run it. They're the experts on it.
All right. And roughly your gross margin?
Oh, it's on the livestock side, it's an industrial margin. You got to be careful because in some countries it's higher than others. But think of the 30 to 40%. And for the pet food and the human, it's obviously higher. But it's a multiple. But we need more sales to make it hit the bottom line. So
all right. Well, I guess last thing I always like to ask: what kind of news flow over the next 6 or 9 months should investors being expecting from you? I guess big contract wins. I guess China's on the radar in opening that market up.
China, Vietnam, don't underplay Vietnam. Vietnam is a market where they've made a tremendous strides as a food producing nation, and to the point where they're now supplying China and others like Philippines and Thailand are. They are now, I think, bigger producer of food products than Philippines, which is a bit shocking to some of us. But so I would see China and Vietnam in the near term, possibly other contracts with other players in existing markets, and some sort of solidifying of the implications of the Avivista partnership.
All right. Kym, thank you very much for taking the time to chat with us. Maybe we'll get you back in 6 months or so after you've hit some more milestones, and then we can get an update on how things are going. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Martin. Appreciate it.